You've just watched the first episode of the American Eggs series and Darren's video for Be Right Back. Both were made by a pair of artists who use green screen better than most people, as far as I can tell. Yeah, there's an interesting sort of pattern in both of those, that like the idea of special effects, we were talking earlier about big budget music videos versus scrappy music videos, and this is like scrappy but done in a really interesting way. It's like it's not giving a fuck at all about, you know, the shadows or the pixelation in the back, and just like the propulsion of both of those videos. Like, yep, next scene, let's keep going. It's kind of like, it's so compelling in that way. I think more people could use to.
I love how working with those guys, they would be, as I said, the vape and the smoke was just, they just brought a vape in, just blow the smoke in the video and go, that's the smoke. Or we need like a diner, and they would go, I remember there's a cafe somewhere that has it, and they would just drive there and they just film the floor, and then that's the footage. And so there was no, I find like often like doing video stuff, there's a great apprehension of we don't have the shot, or, you know, so many YouTube tutorials on how to get the perfect edging and so forth. And this was a great example of just, you don't care. Because also I think like the video clip concept has like, there is no rules. So the whole point of it is that it's just going to be engaging. That's it.
Yeah, completely. That. I mean, that's the command above all, is you've got to carry the song. Like the music video's got to pick up the slack if it's a bad song, but also vice versa. Yeah, I love their work with special effects, green screen, is an interesting sort of foil to some of your own photographic work, Darren, which is like, you in your studio, you create these spaces, you know, are able to somehow like make these incredibly like realistic looking rooms within the same space that always changes, whether it's like a hospital corridor or like a garden, or there's that sense of like the meticulous replica. And I wonder how it was for you watching them do their version of the replica, sort of the facsimile of just like, cool, here's a sheet, here's a thing, let's go.
Well, I think that like they inspired me because it may be like 10 years ago, building these sets, I built everything in the studio. For instance, I'd build it out of wood, and I would kind of screw things in kind of correctly and build it correctly. And there was like not really any Easter eggs within the work to show that it was fake. I kind of enjoyed people didn't know if it was real or not. And then as time has gone on, I've really embraced that. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you start to see power cords in the background and everything's just kind of left there. And so I've increasingly really enjoyed, just not giving a shit and just sort of like building stuff out of cardboard and painting it, turning it around and cutting it. And I'm a big fan of like trying to build a set in like a day, and that I can just with foam or whatever and quickly spray paint it. And part of that's to do with you're standing in a space or a studio, and things don't look fantastic because they're like that. But then the frame or the idea of the camera then photographing and framing something and leaving everything outside of that, and you're just creating this little tiny world, I really enjoy. And I guess like maybe for photographs, I shoot on film, so you've got like this big set and it's photographed on film, and then I get it back and it's on a transparency this big on a light box, and it's very flat and very tiny, and then it gets blown up to 3 meters big again. And so there's a transformation I really like. And in these videos too, there's a great thing of like us being there laughing. I guess that's called editing, because like you got the finished product, but if you watch the B-rolls, everyone's just kind of laughing and lights are crashing and people are smoking and it's all kind of a bit hair-raising, and that kind of construction, I love that. You know, that kind of constructed reality is great.
Mm-hmm. Was it your idea for them to reuse the same characters from the American Egg video in your video, or how did that come about, that kind of recycling?
That's all their video. That's all them, 100%. So I hadn't met anyone before, other than it was shot in my studio with my lights because I didn't have any. So I remember that was I was like, oh, we should at least use my studio. So if you watch that video, there's a black background and there's a city, and then so the city was funny because it was just some metal piping, and they just go, this will be good enough for a city. So I was kind of like, my flow, like, that is not going to look like the city. But you realize you don't care. And Yeah, and I kind of call it with my own project like smoke and mirrors, literally like that, like a lot of smoke machine. It's the gel that brings everything together, and just like cheap tricks, like the band, like everything else. It's just I love that stuff.
So that the video was shot in your studio. How long did it take to make?
About 3 hours.
Well,
Yeah, like really
that's a bit of a record. Other than the one take Grace Jones, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think they did that. I said that there's a picture of the floor, which I think they went and shot later, but the rest of it. Oh, and then there's a shot of Froomes on St Kilda Pier, which might be just a Google image they've just put in the back behind the green screen. I don't think they went and shot anything. It's kind of expanding up. So I think it's all just done from home. But yeah, really super quick. And there was like a rough draft that we wrote. We tried to write a script, and then all done in a few hours. I think we have one there's a few that we're seeing, kind of like done in my studio kind of thing. I'm a big fan of transformation of a room can be anything that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's interesting that even like in your music, the documentation of the same space continues from some of your photographic work. That must be like a wonderful Easter egg for you.
There's a work called The End, which has like a globe with the end and all these stars behind it, and that's the set of that video. She's kind of in a cityscape, and that was basically it. Was kind of like, well, I've got this big black painted thing with silver stardust already, so we're going to have to use that. So that's what we've done. I think later on we do that too with another video. It's just like whatever I've got lying around is the video. Again, with videos, I just kind of feel like they should be. For myself, it's just like for bands, I just want to get them out. I don't think they need to be 6-month long production values for Melbourne or indie bands. They can be done really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that like embracing of the slapdash is like, I mean, that's what keeps you going in it. It's not a big budget sci-fi spectacle. It is just like, here we go,
Also, it kind of like can trigger you to be like, this is not working, I'm not going to do it. So it's a big thing of like, just do it. And, we're just going to finish this afternoon. What we've got is what we've got. And I just go, the technology means we can just edit it and then get it up onto YouTube by tomorrow. So I just like that. And then we can just go on to the next thing. That's like a really fantastic thing that couldn't exist. I think when like the first videos, obviously it was YouTube, but there was a huge process of, you had to get them done on beta tape film. I had to go down to South Melbourne and then get there with a starting for Rage. You had to do the whole thing of like getting it like all properly done. And I think that would have been a huge barrier for a lot of people. So again, just like the instantaneous get it up and out is a big thing I really like. I'm a big fan of like making books, sculptures up, out. Just like try not to think about it too much. Just get it up and out.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that now, those barriers coming down for the music video. I remember writing a story about Rage maybe only 6 or 7 years ago. And even at that stage, they were still, I went to the tiny little ABC studio and they were still using beta video at that point. Like everyone still had to send in their submissions on broadcast standard kind of tape. So, it's kind of, it's interesting to see what happens now that step isn't necessary anymore, perhaps. I don't know how Rage takes videos now. Does anyone?
So I don't know how I imagine it's hard drives and files, but I know that they do a lot of their research just on YouTube. Bands will email links or they'll find links. They've got people who are combing through stuff. I think their ability to find things is greater than it ever has been because of that, because it's not which bands can afford to pay for the transfer to beta tape, or it is just, have you heard something? Who's playing on this radio? Do they have a video? Can we look at it? It's interesting. I know that their scope has broadened a fair bit in terms of what they play on Rage these days. And I imagine that that's why. It's just YouTube.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with the last record, I just had to just supply a link. Then you just fill out a little form and you just send a link off. That was it. Yeah.
Take some of the magic out of it. I mean, it's also take some of the pain out of it as well. Let's move straight on to the next pair of videos. I'm very excited for this pair. I first saw this at your exhibition. Your version of this video I saw at your exhibition last year. I think anyone in the chat who walks away from the screen for a crucial 1 minute period might come back very perplexed. But yeah, so Darren, can you explain what we're about to watch?
Yeah, quite similar. Like this is like a first single called Plans off the last record, and it was just like a straight homage of a New Order song called Round and Round. And I remember really loving that version, which was, I think, 90s supermodels of the time, and they're kind of being bored. And I kind of like that anti-video clip aesthetic of being exciting and editing and trying to do something and trying to create a narrative. And in this one, they're just staring blankly back at the screen. And then it was cut with very tight romantic images of flowers, so forth, with bright sparks. Essentially, I've done the same thing, except I got Melbourne local agencies to provide young talent. And we did the video with my friend Ali in my studio again over the space of a day. We just gave everyone half an hour to come in and just said, be bored to this track, and which they are. And instead of intercutting with the flowers, I thought because it was a song about being fired from work, we intercut it with cardboard paper and stationery, scissors, tape, etc. very quickly. But yes, it was a great video to make of them just listening to a track and stare blankly into space for 20 minutes, and then they had to go, and then the next person came in. And yeah, so it's kind of cool to see these two videos back to back.
Yeah, so it's a reshot or sort of a restaging of New Order's Round and Round, which will be up first. So yeah, please enjoy this double feature of not features, but this double of 2 3-ish minute music videos.